Good morning. Hope you guys have had a lot of coffee and eaten a lot of good food, whatever. I won't be long. This is a really quick announcement that we want to make, but to make the announcement, I want to kind of set up how we got there. So these are our tenets, and they're imperatives for our contributors to kind of develop this better idea, right? And so these tenets are measured against every idea and contribution that comes in, which is working pretty well. We have 10 years of success with this. So there's also kind of a flip side to these tenets, right? And if you look at these tenets a different way, it's kind of like an imperative for the foundation team to optimize our processes and how we do things. So use as an optimization tool, as a filter to look at everything that we do. We've come up with a couple of insights, and I'd like to share one of those with you guys today. So here we have kind of like a typical hardware design process where it's hardware and software required for this, whatever it is we're making. And so, it starts the same typical way where hardware guys get together. They start looking into building a specification, a design, whatever it is that they want to do first. Then they start building, okay? They build, they build, they build. You get to a milestone. Once they get to that milestone, there's a shareable piece of hardware. And that shareable piece of hardware is kind of like not finished, but it's the basis of whatever they need to have. So from that point, they keep working. There's technical debt they have to go work. There's feature, finish outs, all kinds of stuff. But they get through this, and at the end, there's a great product. OCP has a lot of great finished things that we've defined, and that part works. The software guys kind of follow the same exact process. The problem with that is that, there's no reinforcement of one thing to the other, and I'll explain that in a second. But I want to kind of give a shout out to somebody, Cliff Grossner, in the foundation team. He's worked really hard on listening to all of the feedback from the community and taking this feedback and listening to kind of what's the important pieces and distilling it for us so it's easy for us to understand, and looking at our strategic positioning for each of our projects in the marketplace and the impact they have, versus the tenants again. And, came up with some, enlightening realizations that were going to be important here. And one thing was, we make fine hardware products or software products, but they don't really reinforce each other. A better piece of hardware isn't because it had fantastic software and vice versa. So there's kind of a hole in our process if we want to get to excellence. So, like I said, we are continuously trying to optimize our processes and continuously trying to do a better job for everyone in the community. So we got busy and looked at what we needed to do. Turns out there is a better way, okay? And this better way is hardware-software co-design. I've actually heard some other keynotes mention it, so it's important. When we take our teams and we blend them together, right? We got a hardware team and a software team working together to build something unified, to build something that with the end in mind. Magic things happen, right? So here's our process chart, and you'll see that mostly it's the same, right? Hardware guys go build hardware, software guys go build software, but the wonderful thing is they're synchronized, they're coordinated. And when they're coordinated, good things happen. Feedback happens, synergies happen. So that's what we want. We want this. And we've talked about this before as an organization, but it's really difficult to put into practice. So we kind of thought within ourselves, like, what pieces do we have and what pieces are we missing, right? We've got an excellent hardware organization, fantastic community. We've got great software guys, great community. But maybe there's something else that we could search for that we could add to the mix to kind of make this like a breakthrough moment for us. So we talked to our friends at the Linux Foundation. We said, hey, we've got this idea. And they said, you know what? we've got the same idea. And we said, all right, well, here's what we've got. What do you guys got? So you know how things go, right? Silicon Valley, we get to talking, and some really good ideas flow out of it. So, you know, if you think about the fantastic architects and engineers that we have at each community, there's a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of leverage there to build great things, right? So what's different? We have worked with Linux Foundation in the past. We have things like Sonic at Linux Foundation. What's different is our strategy. And this is what I was talking about before. We're thinking about this in a different way. So with that, I'd like to bring some help on the stage here.
All right, thank you, Bijan. Excited to be here. See a lot of familiar faces as well after a long time. For those of you who do not know Linux Foundation, we're the open source software, one of the largest, 800+ projects, including Linux, but Kubernetes. You heard PyTorch, a lot of networking projects like ONAP, Sonic, Dent, you name it, Edge, and IoT projects, and a lot more. So we host all of those projects with a very vibrant software community. So that's a quick intro. You also heard all the keynotes talk about hardware-software co-design. And that's an interesting concept, but it is hard to execute. So let me explain it how we do it and how we see it. If a spec or a specification exists, code it. That's what we do. If it does not exist, code it and upstream it to the specifications organization. Okay, you want the two to be in sync, and you want a very rapid cycle. As Bijan said, right, those diamonds were there for a purpose. That's what co-design is. You bring the communities together. I can guarantee you, having done both hardware and software myself, it is not easy to be the best at both. You can't have the best architect do software and hardware, but when the two combine, it really works out very, very nicely. Okay, so with that said, today we're announcing expanded collaboration. And as we know, networking, Sonic, all of those things were already part of this, but we're going to expand the collaboration between OCP and Linux Foundation to include a lot more projects, including networking, Edge, IoT, as well as the newly announced project Calyptra, right? And we're really excited to working together, collaborating, and pulling together a community of very bright people. And one final thing, if you want to understand more on how the software is designed and architected, please join us at the next big event called Open Networking and Edge Summit, or One Summit in Seattle, November 14th and 15th. That's where the software community gets together to put these pieces together. Registration's open, so we'll see you all there. And thank you for the partnership.
Looking forward to it. Like I said, this is not just a hardware and software repository, but it's going to be a virtual community. So we're going to get together the virtual community. We're going to wrap our hands around whatever problem that we're trying to solve, use cases or whatever, and we're going to work together. So this is really different for us. First targets have been identified, like you said, and stay tuned. Thank you.